What if I told you the video generation revolution isn't coming from Silicon Valley giants, but from an open source tool flying completely under the radar? Yeah, I'm talking about Genmo Mochi one, and trust me, it's about to shake up everything we know about AI video. I've discovered something shocking. This free tool beats Runway Gen3 in blind tests, like for real. And you know what? The industry doesn't want you to know this. So here's what we're doing today. I'm throwing this underdog into the ring against the heavyweights. Sora and Runway Gen3. We're talking 10 intense, no-holds-barred challenges to see what it's really made of. I'll also give you a sneak peek at another rising star in the open source world, Rhymes Allegro, which shows incredible potential. The best part though, at the end of this video, you will know how to get your hands on this premium level tech without spending a single dollar. So stay until the final reveal. It might save you thousands. Hey there, I'm AV, and this is where AI becomes easy. All links and resources are awaiting you in the description. Let's go. First, let's unlock this free AI video revolution. Before we dive into these tools, let me tell you why this matters so much. For years, we've always been that if you want the really powerful AI tools, you've got to pay up, right? The premium experience was always locked behind these expensive subscriptions from the tech giants. And sure, open source alternatives existed, but they were always the budget option. Like, oh, that's pretty cool for a free tool. They were interesting toys, but not something you'd rely on for serious work. But hey, that whole narrative is changing right in front of us. What we're seeing right now is nothing short of a complete revolution in democratizing these tools. The walls between what's premium and what's free are literally crumbling down, and I cannot overstate how huge this is. When world-class tools become available to everyone, indie creators, students, small businesses, we're about to see a creative explosion unlike anything before. Genmo's Mochi one isn't just good for a free tool, it's legitimately challenging the paid big boys. And that, my friends, changes absolutely everything about who gets to create the future of video. The gatekeepers are losing their keys, and we are here for it. Now, here comes the real underdog in this story, Genmo's Mochi one. This little open source model is out here generating 480p videos that are honestly making people do double takes. I know 480p doesn't sound impressive on paper, but trust me, you've got to see what this thing is creating. The magic behind it, something called asymmetric diffusion transformers. Simply put, it's a clever way of allocating computing power, dedicating more resources to processing visuals while streamlining text handling, like a chef focusing most of their attention on the main dish rather than the side dishes. This reduces memory requirements when generating videos, allowing Mochi one to run on more consumer-friendly hardware. That's the technical approach delivering these results we're about to check out together. What's more crazy? You can jump on Mochi one right now, totally free. Just create an account on their website. I've dropped the link in the description. Type in your prompt and watch what happens. For those with decent GPUs who aren't afraid to get your hands dirty with some code, it gets even better. The full model weights are sitting on GitHub under the Apache 2 license. That means you can use it, tweak it, and even build commercial products with it. No strings attached. But hold up, here's the part that blew me away. According to blind tests from Artificial Analysis, Mochi one is actually beating Runway Gen3 and other paid models in user preference tests. The only model consistently scoring higher is OpenAI's Sora. Just think about that for a second. A free, open source model is outperforming tools that people are paying premium subscriptions for. That's not just impressive, that's just insane. We also have a promising contender, Rhymes Allegro. Allegro takes a different approach, creating higher resolution videos at 720p with 15 frames per second. While it shows promise, it currently can't match Mochi one or the paid tools in terms of quality and coherence. It's still very promising for the future though. If you want to try Allegro online, you need to join their waitlist. Be warned though, you'll need to be super patient as the wait times can be quite long. The model is still being refined. Like Mochi one, Allegro has also put their model weights up on GitHub with that same Apache 2 license, giving developers the freedom to use or customize it. Just know that these models do need some serious computing power. Running them locally means you'll need decent hardware, which we'll talk about later. The good news? The online options mean anyone can try these tools out, no matter what kind of computer you're working with. So how are we separating the hype from reality? I've designed 10 brutal tests to push these models to their limits. I'm not just testing open source in a vacuum. I'll compare Mochi 1 against two industry giants, OpenAI's Sora and Runway Gen3. I plan to include Allegro too, but after initial testing, it's clear Allegro still needs more development time before it can truly compete. As you can see in this example, the Finch's movement is a lot weaker than Sora and Mochi's outcome. So, for clarity, and to focus on the most promising comparison, I'll stick with testing Mochi 1 against the paid options. These aren't your typical make a cute dog prompts. Nope. I've carefully crafted challenges to test everything, from complex camera movements to physics interactions, weather effects, emotional storytelling, and more. For each prompt, I'll generate videos with all three models and put them side by side. No filters, no cherry-picking results, just the raw output for you to judge. Remember, I'm intentionally trying to break these models with challenges at the very edge of what's possible. The goal isn't to see perfect videos, but to discover where each model's strengths and limitations truly lie. Ready? Number 1, camera movement test. For our first test, I wanted something that would challenge how these models handle dynamic camera movement. So I went with this prompt: drone footage flying through a dense redwood forest at sunrise, with sunbeams filtering through the mist. Alright, let's see what Mochi 1 gives us. That golden light filtering through the trees is pretty sweet, right? And the misty atmosphere is present even if it's subtle. But here's the catch. Instead of truly flying through the forest, it feels more like we're panning across a postcard. Mochi 1 nailed the what but missed the how when it comes to drone movement, plus the trees lack real detail. Instead of visible bark and texture, we get these dark, undefined shapes that resemble trees but don't quite sell the realism. Let's compare this with what the big players can do. Well, the difference is striking. Look at Sora's footage. The camera smoothly weaves between those massive redwood trunks, and those volumetric sunbeams cutting through the mist, gorgeous. However, if you look closely at those trees, the bark just looks off. That's where you can tell it's made by AI. Runway Gen3 is fluid too, with convincing motion and some beautiful lighting effects. It actually has the edge in realism since it builds videos from existing photos rather than generating them from scratch like Sora and Mochi do. So what did we learn from this first test? The proprietary models still have a significant edge when it comes to complex camera movements and atmospheric effects, but don't count Mochi 1 out yet. It's showing some serious promise with its environmental rendering, even if it can't quite match the commercial options in terms of dynamic movement. Number 2, physical interaction test. For our next challenge, I wanted to see how these models handle cause and effect relationships. So I created this prompt: a marble rolling through an elaborate Rube Goldberg machine, triggering various mechanisms and contraptions. Let's start with Mochi 1. Okay, that's interesting. We do have what looks like a Rube Goldberg setup, and there's definitely a marble rolling through part of it. Some of the mechanisms seem to trigger, but wait a second. The physics don't really make sense here. Sometimes things are moving before the marble even touches them. It's a valiant attempt, but man, does it fall short on those actual physics interactions. Now let's see what the big guns can do. Look at Sora's version. While the image quality is impressive, even better than Mochi 1, the physics are completely off. The marble doesn't run through the machine at all. What should be a chain reaction is just a jumble of unconvincing movements. Those levers and pulleys are not interacting with any sense of proper weight or momentum. It's definitely not what you'd expect from a real Rube Goldberg machine. For Runway 3, the process is slightly different. I generated an image with the same prompt, then feed that image to the video generator. The result is, well, even more disappointing. Runway 3 really falls short on the movement front. There's no chain reaction happening at all. This test highlights something really important. None of these models truly get physics yet. Mochi 1 recognizes what objects should be in the scene, but struggles with making those objects interact. Sora might look prettier, with better image quality than Mochi 1, but when it comes to actual cause and effect, it's a mess. The marble doesn't even follow the track. And Runway 3? It's basically just sitting there looking pretty with zero actual machine functionality. So yeah, we're still waiting for an AI that can actually nail those real-world physical interactions. Right now, they all just fake it with varying degrees of success, or really, varying degrees of failure. For our third test, I wanted to push these models to capture the raw power of nature in motion. I asked them, show me a small coastal town being engulfed by a massive storm with palm trees bending in the wind and waves crashing against the shore. This is a particularly demanding prompt because it requires understanding weather physics, the interaction between wind and objects, water dynamics, and creating a sense of genuine dramatic intensity. See what Mochi One produces. Now we're talking. There's definitely a coastal town and that ominous dark storm rolling in. Pretty convincing. The waves are crashing against the shore. Not bad at all. But where's the drama? There's barely any rain and everything still feels too calm. It's like Mochi One understood storm, but went with mild inconvenience instead of nature's fury. Still, the basic elements are there, which is something. Now, let's see the weather systems the premium models can generate. So, Sora doesn't exactly unleash the apocalypse here, but it does give us the most realistic coastal town by far. The storm isn't raging like you'd expect from the prompt, no massive waves or trees about to snap in half, but it definitely has the best overall vibe. You can at least feel some tension building in the atmosphere. Runway 3? Total letdown. This isn't a storm at all, it's basically just calm before the storm vibes. Where's the action? Where's the weather drama? Nowhere to be found. While none of these models really nailed what a massive storm looks like, Sora at least gives us a realistic setting with some storm elements, while Mochi tries but lacks intensity. Runway 3 completely misses the mark, showing us what looks like a gloomy day at the beach with maybe a few clouds rolling in. Turns out unleashing nature's fury is still a challenge for AI video. Number 4, material transition test. Next, I wanted to test how these models understand material properties and the physics of erosion. I challenged them with, show me a sand sculpture of a castle on a beach being gradually washed away by incoming tide until it completely dissolves. First, Mochi One, look at the detail in that sand castle. The turrets, the archways, the textured walls that actually look like sand grain. The incoming tide approaches with perfect timing, and we start to see the castle begin to lose structure. The most impressive part? The pacing. Mochi One has absolutely nailed the gradual nature of the dissolution. Not too fast, not too slow. You can actually watch the process unfold in a way that feels natural, giving you time to appreciate each stage of the castle's battle against the water. The castle doesn't fully collapse by the end, but compared to the others, Mochi One is showing us real erosion physics in action. Let's see the proprietary models. Sora and Runway 3 both give us some pretty pictures. Sure, higher resolution, nice detail, but where's the action? Where's the water actually hitting the castle? Nowhere. They completely missed the whole point of the prompt. Mochi One is the clear winner here. It's the only one that actually shows any interaction between the tide and the castle. While none of the models showed the complete dissolution, Mochi at least got the physics started and paced it perfectly. Sometimes it's not about the fanciest tech specs, it's about actually getting what the prompt asks for. Number 5, fantasy element test. For this test, I wanted to push these models into pure fantasy territory to see how they handle imagination and magical concepts. I prompted them with a small garden statue of a fairy coming to life, glowing with blue magical light. It requires the models to blend reality with fantasy, bringing an inanimate object to life with a magical quality. Let's see if Mochi One can bring fantasy to life. Wow! While Mochi One doesn't completely nail the coming to life aspect, it captures something special here. The way that blue light plays across the fairy statue creates this ethereal, magical atmosphere that feels genuinely enchanting. There's a delicate quality to how the light interacts with the fairy that suggests something mystical is happening. The statue might not fully animate, but there's still this sense of dormant magic being awakened. Mochi One has managed to create a scene with genuine charm and wonder. It's captured the essence of what makes fantasy appealing, that sense of the ordinary world being touched by something magical and mysterious. Now, let's see what magical statues the premium models can conjure. Sora's version is technically impressive. The statue looks incredibly realistic with detailed textures and convincing materials. But when it comes to the fantasy element, it completely misses the mark. The blue light feels artificially slapped on rather than emerging from within the fairy. There's no sense of life or magic. It's just a well-rendered statue with some blue lighting effects. It's like they focus so much on realism that they forgot about the fantasy part of the prompt. Runway Gen 3 takes a more creative approach. That flower-shaped blue glow is visually interesting and creates a dreamy, otherworldly atmosphere. But similar to the others, the statue itself remains lifeless. The magical effect feels separate from the fairy rather than transforming it. It's pretty to look at but doesn't really fulfill the prompt's core concept. This might be the most surprising result yet. While none of the models fully captured a statue coming to life, Mochi 1 created the most convincing sense of magic and wonder. It shows that technical perfection isn't everything. Sometimes capturing the feeling, the essence of fantasy matters more than photorealistic details. For pure magical atmosphere and emotional impact, Mochi 1 is the clear winner in this fantasy face-off. Number 6. Underwater Scene Test. I wanted to see how these models handle specialized environments with unique physics and lighting, so I asked them to create a scuba diver exploring a vibrant coral reef with schools of colorful fish swimming around. Underwater scenes are particularly challenging because they require understanding water physics, marine life behavior, and the unique way light behaves beneath the surface. Let's dive in with Mochi 1. There's some impressive stuff here. The scuba diver looks properly equipped and proportioned, and those fish schools are moving with surprisingly natural patterns. Not perfect, but pretty good for an open source model. But when you look closer, the diver's movements are pretty unclear. Are they actually exploring or just floating there? And the coral reefs, they don't show much detail at all. It's like they got the general underwater vibe but skipped the fine details. Now, let's see the underwater worlds created by our premium models. Sora's version has those realistic fish movements and good caustic lighting effects. Those rippling light patterns you see underwater. It's technically impressive, but almost feels a bit too perfect, like stock footage rather than something with character. Runway's attempt stands out here. The scuba diver interacts with the camera, which adds this cool, immersive feeling. The colors are super vibrant and saturated in a way that really pops, and those coral reefs are beautiful, detailed, and diverse. It's the most engaging of the 3 videos. For underwater scenes, Runway Gen 3 takes the trophy. It managed to nail not just the technical aspects, but also create that sense of exploration and wonder you want from a diving scene. Mochi 1 has decent elements, but lacks detail, while Sora is technically good, but misses that interactive quality that makes Runway's version feel special. Number 7. Emotional Storytelling Test. Now, for perhaps the most human test of all. Can these models capture genuine emotion and tell a story that resonates on a human level? I asked them to generate an elderly man sits on a park bench and opens a locket containing a photo of his late wife. His expression changes from loneliness to fond remembrance as he smiles through tears. I chose this because it tests the most difficult aspect of visual storytelling, conveying complex, mixed emotions through subtle facial expressions and body language. Let's see how Mochi 1 handles this emotional moment. We do see an elderly man sitting, and he does appear to be holding something that could be a locket. But there's very little emotional change in his expression. His face remains mostly neutral throughout. There's no clear transition from loneliness to remembrance, no tears, and barely a hint of a smile. The basic scene elements are there, but the emotional narrative is missing. Let's see the proprietary models. For such a long prompt, I played with Sora's storyboard a little bit, separating the prompt into 2 scenes. What do we have here? The difference is striking. Sora's version tells a complete emotional story. The man's initial loneliness is palpable. He's holding a visible photo, and his face transforms with a beautiful mix of sadness and joy. The warm light, the way his hands tremble slightly, everything contributes to the emotional narrative. Runway Gen 3 tries to convey the emotional transition, but with less nuanced facial expressions. This test highlights one of the biggest challenges for AI video generators, capturing the subtle nuances of human emotion. While Mochi 1 can create a scene with the right elements, it still struggles to convey the depth and complexity of human emotional experiences that the proprietary models can achieve. Number 8, Sport Action Test. Now let's crank up the difficulty with some serious sports action. I challenge these AI video makers with create a basketball player performing an incredible slam dunk in slow motion. This really puts them to the test. They've got to handle human bodies in motion, physics, and that cool slow-mo effect all at once. Most AI totally bombs on this stuff. Let's check out Mochi one. So yeah, we've got a basketball player holding a ball, and honestly, the picture quality is pretty sweet, but that's about it. There's zero slam dunk happening, just a guy standing there with a ball. Mochi one knows what a basketball player looks like, but can't make him actually do basketball stuff. Now for the big budget models. Sora makes a decent attempt with a slow motion sequence. The player is trying to slam dunk and you get that arena vibe. But man, those body movements are weird. Something's just off about how the guy moves through the air. It doesn't look natural at all. The real shocker is Runway Gen3. When it first created the image from the prompt, it knocked it out of the park. Absolutely killer shot. And while the video version doesn't nail the smoothness of the dunk, the image seems to be the most convincing of the three. Maybe asking for a perfect slam dunk in 10 seconds is pushing it, but Runway Gen 3 definitely wins this round. This test really shows where these models are at right now. Generating realistic human movements, especially athletic stuff like dunking, is super tough for open source models like Mochi. The premium models do better, with Runway surprisingly taking the lead this time. They're getting closer to realistic sports action, but even the best ones still have some awkward movements that would never fool a real basketball fan. Number 9, Mechanical Complexity Test. To see how these models handle complex mechanical systems, I prompted them with a close-up view inside a luxury mechanical watch showing all the intricate gears, springs, and mechanisms. This tests their ability to render detailed mechanical components with precision and accuracy. We have Mochi one here. We can see what appears to be watch components, with some gears and metallic elements. The level of detail is nice. You can make out different gears, springs, and the metallic housing. The textures have a nice shine to them, giving that luxury feel, but the fine details like gear teeth and tiny screws aren't as crisp as they could be. It's definitely recognizable as watch machinery, though it looks more like a general artistic representation of watch parts, rather than a photorealistic mechanism. Let's see the proprietary models. Sora's watch mechanism is astonishingly detailed. The fine craftsmanship is evident in every component, from the precisely cut gear teeth to the delicate balance springs and polished metal surfaces. You can see the intricate engraving on the plates, the tiny jeweled bearings, and even the subtle color variations in the different metal components. Runway Gen 3 also creates an impressive watch mechanism with beautiful detail in the larger components, though it doesn't quite capture the same level of fine detail in the smallest elements as Sora does. This aligns with what we've seen in previous tests. While all models struggle with physical interactions, as we saw in the Rube Goldberg test, the proprietary models excel at capturing intricate visual details. Mochi one delivers a good representation of the mechanical components, but Sora showcases superior precision in rendering complex, detailed objects. Number 10, Anime Style Tests. For this challenge, I threw these models a real curveball, making them tackle a specific art style with cultural elements. I asked them, create an anime-style video of a mystical samurai in a moonlit bamboo forest. Mochi won first, so Mochi gets all the basic elements right. There's definitely a samurai figure and a bamboo forest with moonlight. The background looks pretty sweet, with all that atmospheric lighting through the bamboo. But as far as actual anime style, total miss. It's just not there at all. And the samurai just stands there like a statue. It's basically a slightly moving picture rather than anything you'd call animation. Let's check the fancy models. Sora also completely whiffs on the anime style. The samurai and forest look realistic, not anime at all. They did try something different with camera angles and making the samurai move around, which is ambitious. But man, those movements are weird, like uncanny valley weird. So points for effort on motion, but major fail on the actual style we asked for. Runway Gen 3 generates a stunning image to begin with, as always. It is the only one that actually nailed the anime style part. Everything looks like it could be a frame from an actual anime. The proportions, the line work, the color palette, it's spot on. But then, like Mochi, when I turned it into a video, the samurai just stands there doing nothing. It's like they took a perfect anime screenshot and just added some subtle movement effects. Beautiful to look at, but disappointing if you wanted actual animation. This test really shows how these AI video makers handle specific art styles. Only Runway seems to understand what anime style actually means, while the others just give you regular looking stuff. Sora at least tries to add movement even if it looks weird. Right now, if you want something that actually looks like anime, Runway's your best bet. Just don't expect your characters to do much besides strike a cool pose. The verdict: shocking revelations. Alright folks, after putting these models through this brutal testing gauntlet, I can tell you one thing for sure. The AI video generation world is about to get seriously shaken up. Mochi 1 isn't just another incremental improvement. It represents revolution for open source video generation. What this model can do today would have sounded like pure science fiction just 6 months ago. Here's the real bombshell. In several tests, Mochi 1 didn't just hang with the proprietary giants, it outperformed them. Remember that sandcastle test? Mochi 1 was the only one that showed the tide washing away the castle. The exact thing we asked for. While Sora and Runway looked pretty, they completely missed the point of the prompt. And that fantasy fairy test? Mochi 1 created this magical atmosphere that felt enchanting, while the premium models gave us technically perfect but emotionally sterile results. Sometimes capturing the feeling matters more than perfect pixels. These aren't just flukes or lucky one-off generations, they represent a fundamental strength in Mochi 1's approach. It's not always about technical perfection. Sometimes it's about understanding the essence of what makes visual content compelling. And in some of these specific areas, this free open source model is actually outshining tools that cost thousands of dollars. I've got to keep it real though. The paid models still maintain clear advantages in several areas: camera movements and spatial awareness, detailed rendering, human facial expressions and emotions, specific artistic styles. But here's what should make the executives at OpenAI and Runway seriously nervous. The improvement trajectory for open source is practically vertical. A year ago, open source video generation barely existed as a concept. Today, Mochi 1 is already outperforming paid models in several important areas. If this pace of improvement continues, and there's no reason to think it won't, the gap between free and paid options could shrink dramatically within months. For specific use cases, the free option might already be your best choice. The secret sauce: run it all for free. Now for the moment you've been waiting for: how to get these professional grade tools running on your own machine without spending a single dollar. For Mochi 1, you've got two options. The official repo, which hilariously requires 4 H100 GPUs, because we all have $100,000 of hardware just lying around, right? Or the optimized comfy UI version that real humans can use. For 99% of you, that second option is your golden ticket. Some users have reported running it successfully with just 12 gigabytes of VRAM. That's a single RTX 3080 or better. The link to this optimized version is waiting for you in the description. As for Allegro, while it shows potential, I'd recommend waiting before investing time in setting it up. The minimum requirement is a hefty 9.3 gigabytes VRAM with CPU offloading enabled. Without offloading, that jumps to a massive 27.5 gigabytes. Local Allegro rendering also moves at a glacial pace. We're talking 40 to 60 minutes for a single 6-second clip. The online version has extremely long wait times, and the quality isn't quite there yet. My advice? Keep an eye on Allegro for the future, but wait until the model is more polished and fully published without the wait time. You now have insider knowledge that puts you ahead of many people, seeing where free tools are already beating paid options. This isn't just tech, it's democratizing creativity. When tools this powerful are free, we'll see an explosion of voices previously priced out. Want to try these amazing AI yourself? All links and resources are awaiting you in the description. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.